Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe it. Today we are gonna cover one of the greatest games of all time. It is played between Levon Aronian and the former world champion Vishwanathan Anand. So let's check it out. So Aronian opens with d4. We have d5, c4, c6, knight to f3, knight f6, knight c3, e6, e3, knight b to d7, bishop to d3 and d into c4, the tempo variation. Bishop into c4, b5. Now bishop d3, the bishop retreats, now bishop d6. If castles, castles, queen c2, bishop b7, a3 and rook c8. Although a6 is also a very popular line, threatening c5, here Vishy played rook to c8. Here we have knight to g5 by Aronian, and here we have c5. Bishop into h2 check was also possible, but after king into h2, knight g4 check, king g1, queen into g5, he will push f3. Now you have to go back with your knight, and now e4, and white has a decent structure. We don't want to play it. So instead, Anand played an interesting move, which is c5. And now, if white takes knight into b5, then bishop into h2 check, king into h2, knight g4 check. And now then grabbing the knight. After bishop into h7 check, you just move your king to h8, and now you are threatening bishop into h2, and he has to waste a tempo going back with the bishop. So if you play bishop into b5, then c into d4, e into d4 and h6, kicking away the knight. And now if the knight goes to f3, then simply bishop into f3, g into f3, knight d5. White's pawn structure is very messy. So if you try something like knight to h3, then queen c7, attacking the h2 pawn, and black is very comfortable. So Aronian took knight into h7. Here we have knight g4 by Anand. Here if you take knight into f8, then bishop into h2 check, king h1 and queen h4. It's game over now. Once the bishop moves, you're threatening queen h2 will be a checkmate. So f4 was played. We have c into d4, e into d4 and bishop c5. Anand sacrifices a piece. If knight into f8, then simply bishop into d4 check, king h1, queen h4. And if you try something like h3 and queen into h3, checkmate. So if you take d into c5, then knight into c5, you move your bishop with something like bishop e2, then queen d4 check, king h1, knight f2 check. If you try rook into f2, then queen into f2, and it's soon gonna be mate. You try to defend your queen with bishop d1, then you have background problems. So if you try king g1, knight h3 check, king h1, queen g1 check, rook into g1, knight f2 mate is a nice smothered mate. So bishop e2 is a blunder. If you try something like rook d1, then queen b6. And now there are a lot of terrific discoveries once the knight moves. So Aronian didn't take this. He instead played bishop to e2, attacking the g4 knight. Here Anand simply played knight d to e5. One variation was bishop into d4 check, king h1. Here Aronian is comfortable. You are attacking the g4 knight and even attacking the rook. So Anand didn't want to retreat with his knight. As you can see, there are two pieces left hanging. Then Vishy very innovatively offers another one, knight d5. If you try d into c5, then queen d4 check, king h1, knight f2 check, king g1, knight h3 check, king h1, queen g1 check, rook into g1 and knight f2 is again a smothered mate. So if you try f into e5, queen into d4 check, king h1, queen g1 check, rook into g1, knight f2 mate is again a smothered mate. If you try knight into f8, queen into d4 check, king h1, queen g1 check, rook into g1, knight f2 mate is again a smothered mate. Too many smothered mates. So knight d5, then Aronian proceeded with bishop into g4. We have bishop into d4 check by Anand. We have king h1. Now knight into g4. We have knight into f8. You could try something like queen h4, but queen h7 check exchanges the queens by force. Queen into h7, knight into h7 now. White is okay. Anand didn't want to give any chance to his opponent, so he played f5, blocking the way for the queen. Now if you try something like knight into e6, then it's game over after queen h4, h3 and queen into h3 mate. So you try something like knight g6, which happened in the game, queen f6. And now if you try something like knight e5, knight into h2 is enough, because it's clearing a file. For example, if king into h2, then queen h4 is a checkmate, as the bishop covers its square. So after queen f6, h3 was played in the game. Here queen into g6 was played. You can't really capture the knight, as queen h6 is a checkmate. So you have to play queen e2, it's played. Queen h5. In the game, queen d3 was played, but rook f3 was the best try, preventing queen into h3 mate as the pawn is pinned. So if rook f3, then an amazing continuation was to be followed, with bishop into f3, queen into f3, knight f2 check, king h2, queen into f3, g into f3, knight d3, and white's position is paralyzed. If your move even touches the bishop, the b2 pawn is hanging. And if he tries knight into b5, thinking that he is counter-attacking the bishop, unfortunately for him, rook c2 check is coming. King h1, and we play bishop f2, and your bishop is trapped. There is no way to defend it. So Aronian didn't want to go for it, so he made his last try, and that was queen d3. But feel free to pause the video and win the game on the spot for Anand, while I give you a couple of seconds. Yeah, so the move is of course bishop to e3. And in this position, Levon Aronian resigned the game, as Anand is cutting off the defense of the queen from the h3 pawn. If you try something like bishop into e3, then queen h3 check, king g1 and queen into g2 is a checkmate. So yeah, on bishop e3, Levon Aronian resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Yeah, so congratulations to Vishwanathan Anand on creating this immortal game, and it is renowned as the greatest game of all time. Yeah, that was a nice combination by the Indian chess king. Yeah, so congratulations to him. Okay guys, that's it for today. Goodbye.